Civil liberties advocates are sounding the alarm on President Trump's reported partnership with a data analytics firm called Palantir.
The most recent outrage appears to have stemmed from a New York Times article titled Trump taps Palantir to compile data on Americans.
The Times reports that since Trump took office, Palantir has scored more than $113 million in federal dollars, not including a recent $795 million unspent DoD contract. Per the Times, Palantir has also contracts with agencies like DHS and the Pentagon and is in talks with the IRS and Social Security Administration about buying their technology.
Government officials told the Times that Palantir product called Foundry would make it easier for the Trump administration to merge data from all these different agencies. A former Palantir strategist, Brianna Martin, wrote on LinkedIn that she left over the company's expanding its work with ICE. She continued, quote, "For most of my time here, I found that the way Palantir grappled with the weight of our capabilities to be refreshing, transparent, and conscionable. But for me, this is a red line I won't redraw."
Many on the right are also concerned by past comments made by the CEO, Alex Karp, and the fact that Dr. Deborah Birx is on the board of the company. You remember her as one of the COVID advisors. Specifically, Karp told CNBC in 2024 one of his softwares helped stop the rise of the far right in Europe. As far as Dr. Birx goes, Kentucky Congressman Thomas Massie wrote on X, "Dr. Birx is the worst type of person that gets into government, a complete hypocrite, holier than thou, telling lies, cloaked in faux science with the imprimatur of government legitimacy, and never held accountable, so she will rinse and repeat."
Palantir responded to the Times report on X, writing, "Palantir never collects data to unlawfully surveil Americans, and our Foundry platform employs granular security protections. If the facts were on its side, the New York Times would not have needed to twist the truth."
Yeah, sure, Jan.
Look, we might be on the same page here because I think, this effort was pushed largely by Doge, and Elon Musk was on board with this. I know that he wanted access to people's bank account numbers, student loan information, medical claims, disability status, to know whether they're immigrant or not, political affiliations. And this is all going to be aggregated through a system that Palantir put in place. And I think that leads to massive surveillance, massive big brother. I think that, it leaves Americans extremely vulnerable. And Palantir is the backbone of all this data integration is coming from a suggested outsider in this new Doge era. We don't even know what the plans are for Doge. So this question's really about what is happening with the information, and we should just trust what government says. I mean, come on, it's not about Trump or anybody specific. It's about the American people literally since Vietnam, I believe, have started to question and not trust exactly what the government says for face value, and that's okay. And so there should be real questions about why one agency needs to understand all this data without using it to retaliate in any way against Americans.
I agree with you. Domestic data collection, domestic surveillance are very troubling trends. Even in the best case scenarios, even when the strongest arguments are marshaled for it, I think we should be suspicious. These are people associated with this who the right would flag as globalist adjacent or World Economic Forum or world government supportive, people like Alex Karp, the CEO, Deborah Birx, people who tinker, who don't have respect for conservatism, for the right, for principles of limited government, for principles of localism. They think that crises are opportunities for greater centralized control. These are worrying philosophical undercurrents to accompany this technology that, yes, makes me very concerned. Do you know where the name comes from, Palantir?
No, tell me.
Oh,
I should know that? Okay.
No. I don't know that you would necessarily know it, but it comes from the Lord of the Rings.
Ah.
It is the all-seeing magic orb stones that there's a bunch of them, and Saruman the White, the leader of the Council of Wizards, has one of them, and he uses it to spy on Sauron, the evil villain of the Lord of the Rings. What happens is he gradually becomes corrupted by his proximity to Sauron and his lust for the Ring of Power, and becomes evil, and then helps Sauron, attack the protagonists and the free peoples of Middle-earth. So it is a cautionary tale about using surveillance for good and how that can corrupt you. In fact, all of the Lord of the Rings, I would argue, is very much a cautionary tale about using government power for good ends. I referenced this yesterday. People should watch in the interview I did with James Lindsey talking about the woke right. I refer to the Boromir moment when the good guys have the ring and they say, okay, Boromir says, now we must use it to fight Sauron. And the actual lesson is, no, you can't use this without becoming corrupted by it. You will simply replace Sauron and there'll be more dark power going around. The weapon of the enemy should not be used, it should be destroyed. Again, these are all very important lessons coming from Tolkien's own philosophy, which was in many ways conservative or limited government or traditionalist in a healthy and positive way. And so we should. So it's funny that the company name tells you exactly what it is.
I know.
Let's be wary.
And also, I think on the left, a lot of people have problems with the lack of transparency and oversight. So, and I know while that is even another layer that maybe Republicans aren't arguing, they're just saying no surveillance at all. People on the left are like, what about everyday Americans that don't want their data cross-referenced for uses that are not explicitly named, but no one is checking you to make sure that you're not using it in any way that wasn't stated? And how can we protect people from that? I mean, there's not enough safeguards to make us not in this surveillance state that will have endless, once we open the door, we can't really reclose it. It'll be very hard. And so I think that is just, when you're thinking about the everyday American, most people, appreciate some type of, we see how many people bought Ring cameras on their own, appreciate some type of understanding of what's going on, but don't also want their data misused in any way. And I think that's a constant conversation, especially as we lean more into technology as a country, as we lean more into AI and all the things going on. A lot of people are concerned about what tomorrow looks like. And I think if we don't start to put some guardrails in place, it could really spiral out of control. And I don't want to, put so much limitation on it that people cannot do things. I just want to, start to craft futuristic style rules about what is appropriate and what's not before the, whatever happens determines us responding in retrospect as opposed to ahead of these things happening.
Well, we'll have to make trade-offs, like you said, with Ring cameras, right? That's a useful innovation for, people who don't want the packages stolen from their doors, that kind of thing, knowing who's knocking on the door when you're not home. Yeah, that people like that technology. It's helpful, but it will cause the company to learn things about you, and you have to either be comfortable with that and then not use the product, or you have to make those decisions. It's going to be trade-offs, and I want those trade-offs to be made to the greatest extent possible by individuals, by local communities, not by some all-powerful private contractor that gets a government grant and that is run by people who kind of like the idea of world government. That just seems very dystopian.
Because we just have to trust that they're not going to do anything besides exactly what they say with the information. And I just don't think that that's a responsible request to ask of our government or the American people. I don't think so. Former Biden White House press secretary Karine Jean-Pierre has abandoned the Democrats, and she's getting torched for them. Stay with us.